What if one of the funniest movies ever made, Blazing Saddles, had a huge, obvious blooper hidden in plain sight for 50 years? A mistake so glaring, so ridiculous, it actually made the final cut and nobody noticed. Not fans, not critics, not even Hollywood. Until now. Today, we're exposing the blooper that slipped past millions of eyes and revealing how it perfectly captures the chaotic genius of this outrageous comedy classic. You'll never watch this film the same way again, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's ride into the madness. The year was 1974. America was a nation on edge. The Vietnam War had ended in shame. Watergate was exploding across headlines. President Richard Nixon was days from resigning. Public trust in the government had hit rock bottom, and racial tensions still ran deep. Even after the Civil Rights Act, racism was far from gone, especially in Hollywood, where Western films painted a whitewashed version of the American frontier. Black characters were rarely seen, and when they were sidekicks or comic relief. Native Americans were nameless enemies. The myth of the noble white cowboy went unchallenged until Mel Brooks came along. Mel Brooks, a Jewish comedian and writer with a taste for chaos, didn't just want to spoof the Western, he wanted to blow it up. He saw through the myths and decided it was time for a total takedown. He assembled a team of writers that included Andrew Bergman, Norman Steinberg, Alan Euger, and most importantly, Richard Pryor, the most fearless black comedian in America. At the time, the writing room was madness, 5 men shouting ideas, laughing, arguing, and pushing each other to go further. Pryor brought real fire to the script, insisting that if they were going to mock racism, they had to do it honestly. That meant uncomfortable truths, raw language, and bold ideas. Originally, Pryor was supposed to play the lead sheriff Bart, but Warner Brothers refused to insure him due to his history with substance use. Instead, he stayed on as a writer and personally approved of casting Cleavon Little, a Broadway-trained actor with a smooth, sharp delivery. Little brought something special to the role, a cool confidence and dry wit that cut through the chaos like a scalpel. Alongside him was Gene Wilder, cast at the last minute after original actor Gig Young collapsed on set from alcohol withdrawal. Wilder had just 1 day to prepare, but when he stepped into the role of the Waco Kid, he brought calm, surreal brilliance that would anchor the film. The chemistry between Little and Wilder was instant magic. One moment stands out. When the Waco Kid tells Sheriff Bart that the townspeople are just simple farmers, people of the land. You know, morons. The look on Little's face isn't acting. It's him trying not to burst out laughing. That wasn't scripted. But Mel Brooks kept it in, because that was his secret weapon: chaos. Mistakes stayed. Improvised lines stayed. If something was funny, even by accident, it made the cut. But Blazing Saddles wasn't just jokes and chaos. It was strategic satire. The plot followed Sheriff Bart, a black man sent to lead a racist all-white town called Rock Ridge, not to save it, but to scare the residents off their land for a railroad project. But Bart outsmarts everyone. Under the slapstick and fart jokes was a razor-sharp critique of racism, hypocrisy, and the way Hollywood distorts history. Brooks used laughter as a weapon, and he aimed it at everything: politicians, racists, Hollywood itself. Even the fart jokes weren't just toilet humor. The legendary campfire scene where cowboys eat beans and fart in unison was Brooks's way of destroying the romantic image of cowboys as clean-cut heroes. For years, we'd watch them sit around campfires eating beans. It was time they started farting. When Warner Brothers execs saw it, they begged Brooks to cut the scene. He refused. They wanted to censor everything: the farts, the slurs, the horse punching, the fourth wall breaks. But Brooks had final cut. Legally, they couldn't touch the film without his approval, and he didn't back down. The studio tried to quietly bury the movie with limited releases in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles, but audiences exploded with laughter. Word spread. Lines wrapped around blocks. The film grossed over $100 million, turning into Warner Brothers' biggest comedy of the year. Brooks had risked everything and won, but even for Blazing Saddles, there were limits. One of the most shocking moments never made it to the screen. In a deleted bedroom scene, Lily von Stupp, played by Madeline Kahn, asks Bart in her heavy German accent, "Is it true what they say about your people?" The camera cuts to black. Then comes the punchline, "Ma'am, you're sucking on my arm." The joke was risky, raw, and brutally funny. But Brooks cut it, later saying, "Maybe I got scared." It wasn't the only scene he cut. Others walked right up to the line of physical comedy and racial commentary and crossed it. Looking back, Brooks has admitted he might have gone too far or not far enough. Still, what remained in the film was bold enough to change comedy forever. And that brings us to the infamous mistake, the resurrecting leather shop. During the chaotic final battle in Rock Ridge, the villain Taggart kicks down a fake building labeled Leather and Saddlery. It collapses completely, a great visual gag showing how fake the town really is. But minutes later, after a cutaway, the building appears again standing tall as if nothing ever happened. Then, seconds later, it's blown to pieces by dynamite. The same building is destroyed twice in two completely different ways. How did that make it into the final cut? Simple. Chaos. The pacing is so fast, so packed with jokes, that most people never noticed. For 50 years, fans have watched that scene without catching it. But in the era of HD streaming and pause buttons, the blooper finally emerged, and it just adds to the movie's legend. And it's not alone. There are dozens of bloopers scattered throughout the film, each one adding to the chaotic charm. A piece of bread mysteriously vanishes and reappears between shots, almost like it had a mind of its own. A character sports a sheriff's badge long before he's even officially appointed. A small but hilarious continuity slip. Shadows fall awkwardly on painted backdrops, exposing the illusion of the set. During Lily's unforgettable, "I'm tired" performance, a stage light accidentally breaks mid-song, but the scene keeps rolling. In another moment, during an escape scene, you can clearly see a cable pulling the handcart, no attempt made to hide it. And then there's the extra. In the final act, as the chaotic brawl spills onto the modern streets of Burbank, a man in a sweater casually strolls through the shot. He's not a character. He's not in costume. He's not even part of the production. He's just a regular passerby who wandered into movie history. But instead of reshooting the scene or editing him out, Brooks laughed and said, "Leave him in, it's funny." That was the philosophy. Comedy didn't need perfection, it needed instinct, spontaneity, and a willingness to embrace the unexpected. Blazing Saddles didn't just break the fourth wall, it nuked it. Characters run off set, into other sound stages, the studio commissary, and finally into a movie theater showing Blazing Saddles itself. It's absurd, it's brilliant. It's self-aware comedy decades ahead of its time. And those bloopers? They're not mistakes. They're part of the point. The entire movie is about breaking illusions, the myth of the noble cowboy, the polished Hollywood narrative, even the idea that films must be perfect. The mistakes remind us this isn't a clean corporate product. It's a raw, fearless human creation. Could Blazing Saddles be made today? Probably not. Not because audiences couldn't handle it, but because studios wouldn't dare risk it. Today, satire is over-explained, over-censored, or misunderstood. But Blazing Saddles trusted its audience. It dared to say the wrong thing for the right reason. And 50 years later, it still hits just as hard. So next time you watch Blazing Saddles, watch closely. The bloopers, the chaos, the imperfections, they aren't flaws. They're part of the legacy. A fearless, funny, and fiery masterpiece that broke every rule and dared us to laugh at the truth. Like, comment, and subscribe and tell us what Legendary movie mistake have you spotted that nobody else did? Thanks for watching.